22 in the top right corner. All right, 22 is basically taking somewhat of a word problem and figuring out how many there are of a fraction of a group. For example, it tells me that 2/3 of the 270 fans wore green to the game. So how many wore green? Well, here's what we know. 2/3 of the 270 fans wore green. Okay? Now, the best way, anytime you see a word problem or hear something like this, the best thing to do is to always make an illustration. Anytime you're working with word problems, do something where you can see what's happening. Okay? So I'm going to draw 2/3. Over here, a little box that just shows me 2/3. Okay? How many people total were there? There are 2/3 of this many people that wore green. So this is the amount of people. So there are 270 people total in these groups. Everybody understand that? All right, now, how do I figure out what is in each of these groups?
Divide by 3.
Why by 3?
Because there's 3 sections.
Because there's 3 different sections. So basically I'm taking, let's say I had 270 cookies, and I'm dividing into 3 different groups. I would divide 270 divided by 3. Well, here we're not talking about cookies. We're talking about how many people wore green. 2 out of 3 people wore green that were out of 270. Okay? So we do 270 divided by 3. 3 will go into 27 9 times. We're going to 0 0 times. Okay, so the answer is 90. So that means that 90, 90, and 90. 90 plus 90 plus 90 equals 270. Okay? But it tells me that 2 of the 3 wore green. So how many wore green?
180.
180. Okay? See how a picture can really help you understand it very easily? Okay, so 180 wore green. How did I know that? By figuring out what each portion wore. Okay? Let's try this one. 2/5 of the singers, 30 singers, 2/5 of 30 singers in the choir are boys. 2/5 of the 30 singers are boys. Okay, so again, draw you a little thing. And how many different parts am I going to have? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now, how many singers are there in total? 30. 2/5 of the 30 singers. There are 30 singers total. Okay, now we're just trying to figure out what 2 of them are. But first I have to figure out what each of them are. So I'm going to take 30 and do what with it? Divide it by 5. 30 divided by 5 is 6. So each of these sections have 6.
12.
And I want to know how much 2/5 are, and 6 and 6 is 12. So if 12 are boys, how many are girls?
18.
18. Very good. Okay, it didn't ask that, but actually it did. The next question. Okay, let's do a percentage one, and then we are done.
Percentage what?
Percentage problem.
Oh, I thought you said percentage 1.
Well, I did. Percentage problem. Okay, in the following statement, change. Okay, we'll do that in a minute. All right, Britt correctly answered 80% of the 40 questions. She answered 80% of the 40 questions. Now, you can never in math leave a percentage as percentage in a problem. You always have to change it. What can I change percent to? A fraction. It's best for us to work with fractions because that's what we've been doing. 2 out of 3, 4 out of 5, 2 out of 5, whatever. Okay? So it's best for us to work as fractions. All right? What does that look like as a fraction?
It doesn't.
Okay, but first, what does it look like?
80 over 100.
80 over 100. Any percentage is always over 100. Okay? I'm going to go in and reduce it, and 80 over 100 now becomes 8 over 10, which becomes 2 will go into 8 4 times, 2 will go into 10 5 times, okay? How I got this, if you don't understand how I did this, basically I divided by 10. 80 divided by 10 is 8, and 100 divided by 10 is 10, okay? So we finally reduce it. So now let's rewrite the problem. 4/5 of the 40 questions is what he did, how many he answered correctly. Okay, so let's draw that. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes, okay. How many questions are there total? 40, right? How much is in each?
8.
Yes, why? We divided it by 5, very good. Got 8. So as you can see, 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 equals our 40, okay? But we only want to know what he answered correctly, and he answered 4 out of 5 correctly. So 8, 32. So he got a score of 32 out of 40, pretty much, which equals an 80 because it showed 80%. All right? So 32 would be our answer on that one. So the important part is that you learned how to make 80% into that fraction by taking percent and putting it over 100. Okay? If you didn't remember that, if you didn't remember that you needed to reduce, you could have even drawn a circular knowing that this is 100%, okay? And tried to divide it into 10s or 20s or whatever just to try to get 80 worked out, okay? That is a little bit harder, but you could have done that. All right? Does everybody feel like they understand? All righty.